Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. We got just one drink that we rule them all. Hope you remember your thoughts. Get your Uru fingers and your Middle Earth guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword +1. Usually wins you if it will get you to come. To the Geek Tank. To the Geek Tank. The Rocky Mountain Geek Tank.
Hi, I'm Guy,
Hi, I'm Alex.
Hi, I'm Troy.
and this is Geek Tank.
Now I am on the bottom size podcast, which
We were just
Phrasing.
discussing whether you were a bottom or not, and that's where we are.
well, normally I could switch, but I don't have the power because I'm on the bottom. There we go. Now we got it.
So
Bottom
you dropped out
switching.
and dropped back in again halfway through because I added you the first time.
Yeah, because I realized I wasn't logged in and I was going to do that and saw what a pain in the butt it was going to be. So I ended up like, I'm not going to get done with this in time. I guess I better just come in here as a guest.
Well, now our guest today is Troy.
For some reason, my computer decided you don't need to be on StreamYard anymore. And so I've got to go through the whole sign-in process and everything.
Yep.
Well, cool. School's canceled tomorrow.
For
Yep.
you.
Same. Or for
For
at least
you.
for Nova.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, on the other hand, they just said, okay, well, the college is late start. And my intro to bioanthropology said, we'll be meeting on Teams because I don't have the ability to take the take the hit on the loss of the day. So we got too much to cover. So we'll meet you on Teams at 8 a.m. And I'm like, okay. And then my Japanese class said, here, fill out this homework assignment real quick and that'll cover it. And then my other class is in the afternoon. So I guess I'll be on campus for that one.
I assume Teams is some kind of online
Microsoft Teams.
Okay, never used it.
Microsoft, yeah, it's Google Classroom or Google Classroom merged with Google Business version of whatever Google Classroom was.
Okay.
So and it's funny that you say that because of course our company uses Teams all the frickin' time. So you've never heard of it, but you will.
I will.
It's only a matter of time.
I've probably been on it and don't even know.
Yeah. It's the purple icon or whatever. I don't know. But I start school tomorrow, for better or for worse.
Yeah, different rules for college folks than it is for middle school and high school.
Yep. I have to work tomorrow, or I have to go to school tomorrow, and I'm actually super psyched about it. And I've been geared up. I was telling Alex before the show, he sent this homework assignment. He's like, this should be you may have to look up all these verbs to figure this out, and I'm just writing them. Each verb, changing it, conjugating it, going line to line. And I'm like, what have I gotten myself into? I backed up one class at the behest of the team lead of the department because they were like, well, you could probably use the review. But then it's like Alex said, find Japan on a map. It's not that simple, but it feels like it. Can you find Japan?
Didn't you do a thing to test to where you belong in it?
I did, and I started crashing out in the 4th chapter. So I figured that meant that I probably needed to go back into this class, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm back in it, they're like, here's some review. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the verb for to do? Do you remember the verb to study? And I'm like, oh boy.
No, maybe about the halfway point or 3/4 of the way through, they'll start hitting stuff you haven't done yet.
That's what I'm hoping for. And I'm hoping it'll be an easy A up until that point. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. It's all right. I'm a big boy. I can handle this. But I am sitting there going, because James was right. He says, you're going to stumble all the time turning in your assignments, and they're going to think you're a normal student until you speak. And then it will be a completely different game because you'll start talking fluently in Japanese, if not incorrectly. But no student in this class is ready to actually open their mouth and speak the language, whereas I've done that for years. So what the Professor and I sort of discussed was probably my version of Japanese is what you'd find if you lived in a country. You talk to people, you walk up to them, and even if you go, hey, store, go with me, buy aspirin, like then you'd go, oh, okay, yeah, let me take you to the store. And you don't have all the right verbiage, but you can figure it all out. So that's probably really what my Japanese sounds like. And so, yeah, I mean, learning how to properly put all the correct grammar in there probably is a useful thing.
Yeah. Especially since a lot of what you're going to do is going to be reading and writing.
Yep.
Let's see. So I believe last week the suggestion was thrown out. I can't see comments, by the way, because since I'm not a moderator, I don't know if Brent's here or not.
He's not.
Okay. But last time we'd mentioned something about how has becoming a parent, if at all, affected the way we consume media, and like what the effect that media has on us. I think it was something like that, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, because
you're talking about Hobbit and Lord of the Rings.
Came about because Alex was watching something with Nova, and it was specifically trying to remember
Sandman or Good Omens.
No. It was a show that we wouldn't have watched. It was going the other direction. As in, Alex watched a show that in our 20s we would have gone, that's a kid's show or something like that. And now we all respect it and go, oh, that's really cool. In a different way. We view things in a different way now.
There's a lot of different lenses we can take with this. Yeah.
I mean, because I think we've covered I won't watch The Boys with my 5-year-old child. Ha ha ha. We've covered that one. But I don't think we've covered I've gone back and really gotten a new appreciation for Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers, whereby normally we would have, I'm just making up Sesame Street. I'm not saying that, although Mr. Rogers is very good. But it was something that Alex was watching that was typically a children's show that, Alex was finding an appreciation for. And I realized that's a different thing, because there's a bunch of things that I watched for the first time because of my kid, like Thomas the Tank Engine. I had never actually seen any Thomas the Tank Engine, but for a while there, the kiddo was really into it. And I got to watch a lot of it and really appreciated the animation and how they did the animation and things like that, and the way that the animation was done. And so it was a lot of stuff that I hadn't actually ever really thought of before.
Yeah, I recall other episodes, but not last week's episode of Alex mentioning stuff like the Dragon Princess, or that's not what it's called.
Yeah, well, we definitely. I think we've touched on some stuff like kids media being a lot different / better in many ways. At least the good stuff is like Avatar series and
Brent finally showed up. Hey, Brent.
Yeah, the Dragon Prince. Which is now the Mystery of Erebos, is they did a name change, like after a few seasons, as the story has shifted. But you can still find it on Netflix under the Dragon Prince. She-Ra, Princesses of Power, really good.
The new She-Ra is very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm very impressed by the new She-Ra.
Absolutely, and Carmen Sandiego, we watch and stuff, and these are all things I probably would not have watched.
I think it was Carmen Sandiego that you had said, because of course Carmen Sandiego was around in my era.
Yeah, same.
So, and was one that I felt too mature to watch when I was like 12.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, this is a kid's show.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the point we were trying to get to was where we would once have said, this is too childish for us, because we were in our macho, we've got to be, adults, teenagers or whatever. And now that we're more advanced people, now that we're more adult and actual adults as opposed to the fake adults.
Mm-hmm.
So then I pose that question. What are the things that you two have seen in media that you would not have known, that you would not have watched under the guise of, I'm too cruel for this, but now you're watching it and going, hey, that's actually really good.
Yeah. Well, time for Brent's comment. This Carmen Sandiego "Where in the World" theme song is now in his head. Well, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube, but there was a Netflix kind of choose your own adventure, whatever they call it, or maybe visual novel style game of Carmen Sandiego with the new series. And the bonus is if you win it, you have the entire cast and animated singing the song and switching off with each other and stuff. It's actually really fun.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, no, and those all the shows that I mentioned, I probably never would have watched. I mean, there is so much media out there, and I have.
Sure.
I still, I've got a backlog of games and movies and TV shows and stuff, but it's like, yeah, watching this stuff with her is really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of seeing it from a kid's perspective. Yeah, and just then, and also just trying to be kind of sensitive to her, like what she needs. There's definitely things like when we're reading or when we're watching things like, "Are you okay with this? Maybe we need to talk about this."
I don't think
Cool.
I've always been weird, but I've never had that sensation in my brain that I need to avoid something in order for appearances or feeling cool. And part of my weirdness is watching things people wouldn't expect me to watch. So I watched cartoons when I was in college without kids.
Right.
So a Batman the animated series I would not miss at all and would record it on my VHS player. And I was in my early 20s without children.
Right.
So I never hit that point. And like Alex said, there's just a bunch of stuff. And a few years ago, my kids hit a point to where they just tend to not really watch TV anymore. They've migrated to YouTube and other online streaming stuff as opposed to sitting in front of the television and watching something, which is frustrating because it's such an easy way to have family time is to try to get the family together to watch something. But then if the family wants to go play video games and not sit with you, that destroys that.
I have been sort of enforcing it. The way I kind of put it to Lexi was that this is the way that my family expressed family time when I was a kid. And I would watch shows that normally I wouldn't have watched, like Moonlighting and things like that, where I would have never watched that on my own of my own accord, but watched it with mom. And, like the Olympics, I watched all the Olympics. I watched a lot of football.
But what other alternatives did you have at that point as a kid?
I didn't have a lot of alternatives at that point, but I've enforced that specific. I mean, I would go draw, man.
But you could still do that while with the family there.
I actually started doing that as well, but then the things that I was watching started to actually become interesting. So that was an interesting thing. I was just thinking about this when we were talking about this just now. I remember when we first got cable and the Disney Channel was one of the channels that you could get. And I remember watching the Disney Channel and going, I'm a little too old for all of this, but boy, I sure do like the colors and I like the brightness. And in a way, I really kind of like the wholesomeness, because I was getting into being a teenager and girls were starting to become attractive to me as opposed to just being other people in my school. And it was nice to see Disney sort of doing there's no real sex stuff going on in here. Because for a while there, it was a little like, I don't know all of the pieces. I knew the mechanics, obviously, but I didn't know the social pieces that went with all of that. And it was a little intimidating. And so I remember that specifically. I don't know why that brought up, except that I remember watching things like Fraggle Rock and stuff like that on the Disney Channel long before. Because I guess Fraggle Rock came from HBO originally. I remember watching it on HBO. And then I remember watching it on Disney. So I don't know. Maybe I didn't watch it on Disney. Maybe I just watched it on HBO. Anyway, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I'm not enforcing things other than I will create events like Pie Hard, and and 2 of the 3 will want to participate in that. So
right, or you were also playing with Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, that's so. Since I went to their world instead of making them come to my world, so they're online playing video games. So I said, "You have to let me play video games with you," and Not quite that way. I tricked him better than that. But yeah, it's when Nick was an only child and he watched a lot of TV. There were shows that I probably would not have seeked out and watched and known about, and probably the two coolest ones would have been Adventure Time and Gravity Falls, because I probably would not have known about those. They wouldn't have been on my radar.
Right.
But they're ones where I have told people, even if you don't have kids, these are really well written shows and they're worth watching. So,
right. It's interesting too, because I think there's been it's been a certain amount of, like, Bugs Bunny has always had adult jokes that you don't catch until later. But I think that with Gravity Falls and some of those that you were just talking about, the adult jokes are aimed a little higher and they're a little bit more complex.
Yeah, it's not so much about innuendo in those. It's more about social commentary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was just watching something where it was talking about things you didn't catch until later and you didn't quite grasp it when you were a kid, and they were showing Tom and Jerry, and Tom had gotten killed and sent to heaven, and as he was coming up to the pearly gates, the Saint Peter or whatever was checking in all the cats who had died, and one of them was a bag full of wet kittens, and you don't get it as a kid. Went right past you. As an adult, you're like, oh. You know?
Yeah, like, humans suck.
Right? It was like, damn. But I remember watching that and going, oh, the kitties are so cute. As a kid, as a child, and having zero clue what that meant.
Right. We didn't grow up in a place or in an environment where people did that regularly.
Yeah.
Though, it's just, speaking of, I was trying to not get Nova into watching Sandman, because I know it's still a little bit too mature for her. Especially in certain episodes, but like she was like kind of like watching one of them. I'm like, yeah, this one's pretty safe. Oh wait, no, it's not. And it's the Dream of a Thousand Cats. And it's like, and then they took my kittens and tossed them into the lake, and I heard them when they died. I'm like, sorry, kid. And it's just like I was watching it, and she was like in the room, and I wasn't like there's been other episodes have been like, oh, there's child abuse here, like being shown. Let's not have you see that. We can talk about it in abstract. But yeah. So
in a way, that was a discussion we were having online about Blue-Eyed Samurai. You know, like one of my friends who's particularly religious said could have done without all of the nudity. It would have been a better show without all the nudity. And I was like, not accurate though to feudal era Japan though. You know, that was a thing that happened in feudal era Japan. And well, yeah, but you know, think about all the kids who would see that. And I'm like, who's showing Blue-Eyed Samurai to your kids?
If you don't have parental controls on your Netflix account for your kid to watch stuff, that's on you.
Right. I'm sitting there going, dude, I wouldn't show my kid this, and my kid's 13, not for the nudity, but for all the hacking and slashing of people.
I would have absolutely watched that show at the age of 13 and didn't watch shows like it.
And that's part of the reason why you and Troy and I are broken. I'm just saying.
I think my seeking it out is more of a symptom of my brokenness than a cause. Honestly.
But I've told Nick before, it's like, I know you've got friends that you hang out with that probably watch stuff that mom wouldn't approve of. The big thing to know is the reason we are censoring this is because of X, Y, and Z. So if you make the choice to seek it out on yourself and do that, just know you don't get to go back. Where you are now mentally is not a reverse trip. You're only going to continue, hopefully, to mature. And the things that you don't know as you learn them, they're stuck with you from then on. And so what we're doing is trying to delay some of the stuff, just because as far as your brain growth goes, there's certain markers where it's better at certain ages to have that stuff introduced to you. But I'm telling you, as your dad who completely broke all the rules, that I know that there's a desire there to break the rules. Sure. And I know that I can't police you all the time. So, and I don't want to either. So I just want you to understand our reasoning for when you make your decisions. So
it's interesting you chose that route. That's the same route I chose, which is, hey, you're going to start getting into these, I know that it's hip now in school for kids to watch car crash videos and watch people getting killed in car crashes and things like that. And I will tell you now, that's a door you can't go back through. Once you've gone through it, once you've seen death in all of its glory, you can't back out. And so you lose part of your childhood. And
I'll be right back.
Enjoy your childhood while you can.
Mhm.
Do everything you can now before that door is crossed, because once it's crossed, there's nothing you can do.
There's a show, it's on Netflix now. It originally was on FX, called Happy, based off of a graphic novel, and it has a lot to do with imaginary friends. But it's a very adult and violent show. But there's a point to where there's these kids with their imaginary friends on their shoulder, and the detective who had to find a VHS player to play the tape, because VHS players are hard to find. So he's at the school. He puts the tape in, and it's a porno tape, and all the kids' imaginary friends just blink out of existence, because now they've no longer are kids with imaginary friends. They've passed that point. So I thought that was an interesting way that they did that.
Chris is saying, "Do as I say, not as I do."
Yeah,
in a way, yes. Yeah, I mean, but because it was an error we made, you know what I mean? Like, or maybe wasn't, but I could have stood to have been innocent for a little while longer, or maybe that's just the way it goes.
Mhm.
And in fact, now that I kind of look back on it, it doesn't really matter. When it happens, and it's done. And it may happen earlier or later, but the truth of the matter is, it's the end of an era, and now that I'm 50, it'd be nice to have gone back to that era, but you can't. You can't ever go back. The road's traveled.
Right.
So the other direction, which is where I thought we were going to take this when we'd mentioned it last week, how has being a parent affected the things you watch now? Because for me, I noticed this mostly when Nick was like, after being born up until about age 3 is when I really started to realize the change happening and how the lenses that I viewed things in. And I can't remember what freaking movie it was now off the top of my head. But a movie that I'd seen lots of times, and it never had any kind of emotional impact on me at all. However, seeing it after becoming a parent actually made me have the feels watching it. And it was some action film that involved a kid being in danger. And so seeing that as a parent, I definitely had a different emotional reaction to it than not being a parent. So I don't know if anybody else experienced that yet.
I'm going to pass it to Alex next.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was a couple things. I got Sandman on Blu-ray, and I'm watching every disc because I want to make sure it works before I store it away and continue to watch it mostly on streaming to tell Netflix to make more Sandman. But so if you're unfamiliar with Sandman, it goes in a lot of places, and some of them are pretty dark. And in the second collection, which is the latter half of the first season for the most part, there is child abuse. And when I first watched it, I'm like, wow, yep, they're totally going there. Okay, well, I'm here to watch this show, and this is uncomfortable, but I'm watching this, and I'm watching the performances, seeing how they do with it, and still enjoy the show quite a bit. This time around, I'm making sure it works. So I'm push and play, and I'm reading my Transmetropolitan, and whenever the child abuse is not happening, I'm watching the show.
Yeah.
A little bit too close to home. Just stuff that I do not want to
dredge back up.
I just don't want to. I know it happens, and I just don't want to be watching portrayals of it.
Mm-hmm.
Have I told the Borderlands 2 story on the podcast?
You talked about Borderlands and Borderlands 2. I don't know if you've told the story about it, though.
Okay, so I love Borderlands 2. I really enjoy Borderlands. Borderlands 2, I think, is really great. And I was doing a playthrough of it. And this is a while ago. It wasn't quite new, but it was, I'd played through it at least one other time before. I'm playing one of the DLCs, and it's kind of Mad Max land in this DLC. And Borderlands, if you're not familiar, is it's cel shaded, very stylistic. It's like a comedic horror game, honestly. And so I'm playing and I'm driving around in my car, and a bunch of like gang members and outlanders and their motorcycles come bursting out and rockets, and they blow up my car, and I come jumping out of the wreck, and just mauling people and killing them, and just doing the thing. And then once everything's dead, because I'm a badass, I start picking up a loot. It's a looter shooter too, and they make some very specific choices in Borderlands with the kind of adversaries you have. There's very few female. There's only a handful of female antagonists in the game, and there are no mobs are women, or at least can be identified as female. And so that is a specific choice. Also, like there are midgets and such, but they're not children. They're meant to be, people who are small, but adults. And so I'm going around and I'm picking up all the loot, and of course, loot often falls around next to the dead bodies, and the my computer in the game, the bodies persist for a while before they go away. And I'm doing it, and I stop and I pick up some loot, and I'm camera wise, and it's first person shooter. I'm looking at this leather clad midget that I killed or whatever, helmet and everything, and I look at it, and I just sort of take my hand off the mouse and the keyboard and sort of lean back. And my logical brain knows it's ragdoll physics. It's ragdoll physics. Just how it goes. Happens all the time. Not a big deal. But I'm looking at the body of this small person, as though it's cartoonish, though it's yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, damn, if I have not seen my own child sleep in that position 1,000 times. And I just stared at the screen for like at least 5 minutes, maybe 10, maybe 20. And then I turned off the game, and I didn't go back to it for like 2 or 3 years. Like, we're done with this for now.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I had a similar situation when I was in Japan, because I went to the Hiroshima Museum and I was fine. I mean, I knew what happened. We were in Hiroshima. And Hiroshima is a beautiful city today. Lovely, very well built up, obviously, because sadly it was absolutely leveled. It is one of the more modern cities. The streets are big enough to hold trolleys and cars, because, unlike some of these other cities, which had to grow up around cities that were built in 500 or whatever, Hiroshima was completely flattened. And so all of it is a beautiful city. And then we went to the Genbaku Dome, the infamous opera house that was the only building left standing. And that was really, it was impactful and everything like that. And I went through the museum, and they had all of these things, and, very, very methodical and, what's the word for it? Clinical explanations of what happened and everything like that. And I was doing fine until I saw this one mannequin, and the mannequin had a school uniform on, and it was the school uniform that 2 boys had been wearing. They were in the school, which was only about 300 meters from the detonation point. And the schools in Japan are built like they're built. So the building withstood the explosion, and the kids inside were critically nuked. And so these 2 boys had made it home and then died. And these were their uniforms mixed together to make one uniform, because they actually did not have enough of the uniform to make a full uniform, except they had to use 2 of them. And the uniforms were the same design as my kids' school uniforms. And that was it. I was like, okay, this is too much. I can't deal with this. I was fine right up until that moment, but the uniforms were the same. Because Japan doesn't change anything. So the school uniforms were almost identical to the school uniforms my kids were wearing back in my home prefecture of Ibaraki. Right. And I was like, that was it. I started tearing up. I was like, this is too much. I can't deal with this, And that was the line in the sand.
for those who do not know, Guy is speaking as his kids. He's speaking with the kids he was teaching.
Yes, the kids at school, not
yeah.
not my actual child.
Yeah, no. But for those who don't know,
but it was interesting how everybody knows everything about Hiroshima. We all know all about it. We've seen Barefoot Gen, which was a horrible rendition of what occurred during that moment. Things like that we all knew, but it didn't mean anything until it was kids that I took care of every day.
Until
kids
it was personal.
Charge.
Until it was personal.
Yeah. Then it meant something.
You know what else means something?
I know. I hate to do it now too, because it's just such a thing.
It's your fault. You're the one who drove us into this.
No. Alex started it. I blame Alex. However,
I accept your hatred.
I will say that Geek Tank is sponsored by Kieran Games, Geekway Homes, the Massage Wizard, and your moms. All right. Thank you to our various wonderful sponsors who are lovely people, and we love them a lot.
So,
even if this became a thing, because Brent's even saying like "Gone with the Wind."
Mm-hmm.
That's I agree. There's something wrong with that scene. I can't watch it either. It hurts.
I've never gotten through that movie because it bores me too much. And I know it's a classic.
As a teenager, I laughed at that scene, and not even putting on airs. It was just I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, oh no, Scarlett O'Hara's shitty child just died. Sorry, fucking hate you. But I get it. But of course, I was a teenager then. These days, I'd be like, wow, that's really shitty. She's a shitty person, but
yeah.
Maybe she should have fallen off the horse. Yeah, Scarlett O'Hara should have fallen off the horse.
It's the same thing. I have a hard time watching racism. So much so, I don't like Blazing Saddles. Even though I know what they were after there. But I saw racism firsthand. Like, I saw it being institutionalized. I saw it being just what we do to black people sort of things. And I'm like, I can't take it. It's too close to home. It makes me super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's
a tangent. Gone with the Wind, racism, Martin Luther King Day. So
all fits.
No. This is a story that it is there are facts in this story and there is conjecture. The fact is, during the premiere of Gone with the Wind, they brought out a very renowned Southern Baptist, I think it was Baptist, but Southern black church choir to sing as part of the premiere. That is known. What is also known, that particular church choir was the one that Martin Luther King's dad was the leader of.
Minister.
Yeah, the minister. And that what is unknown is if Martin Luther King was part of the choir that day or went to that event. But it's like,
Either way, salute to Dr. King. I just wanted to.
So, so that was a tangent.
Shout out to Dr. King.
And then, there's things that are hard to see and be a part of. See, Bob said, got to see The Wizard this weekend. You mean The Wizard, like
Massage.
the Fred Savage movie? The Massage Wizards. Okay, cool. Right on.
This is how Massage.
Oh, I'm going to seeing him next week because he's part of the rewatch we're going through. We're watching the original Star Wars trilogies in their original mode. Which, speaking of a Mandela effect, all of my life I have believed that Star Wars started with Episode 4, even in the original run, because I thought, because there was this rumor that went around in the 80s that said that he'd planned it to be multiple trilogies from the very get-go, and so he just put Episode 4 at the beginning of the scroll, and I believed it enough that when I saw a couple of weeks ago, I actually saw the original cut of the 1977 version, and it does not have Episode 4 on there, and I was like, that's seriously a Mandela effect.
That's interesting.
It's like,
I never
really believed it.
I never thought that just because I'd seen the original one so many times.
Right.
It was burned into my brain. So when people started saying he's always playing it, I'm like, I don't remember that. I remember it being that's the first movie. But when you said you're going to see the wizard, you didn't mean the massage wizard because he's not in the movie. So that's
me? No, no, but he's the one who has the massage wizard's the one who's been bringing the original cuts.
Oh, okay. So you will see him.
I will see the guy who is the massage wizard.
Is it on VHS then?
No, it's a digital version.
Oh, okay.
And
a story about a boy, a girl, and a galaxy.
But it's and it was a lot of fun to watch it again in its original format. I mean, it really was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was nice because they've been cleaning it up and they've been going through. So as they find prints here or there, this crew of people who are going around, and every so often a movie theater will find an old copy of Star Wars hanging out in the back, somewhere, but it's turned red because it's been sitting so long. The film has turned red or whatever. And so they have to telecine it and do all of these old techniques to try to bring it back into their real world. And then they're splicing it together so that they've got the best copy of each version. Because it's clearly all in 70 millimeter, but there's a couple of shots that are, of course, not in 70 millimeter, which means whatever was their 70 millimeter copy was missing a couple of shots. So they've gone back and had to rebuild pieces. And it was fascinating. But as someone who loves the art of movie making, not just movie making, this is one of the areas where Troy and I are very similar and where we have connections. The art of making a movie. I love watching that and just knowing what they were trying to do through here, trying to fix this or splice that, or, they're leaving all the cigarette burns in and everything like that. And those are so cool because that's usually edited out when we get into these newer versions. For those of you who don't know what a cigarette burn is, it's the mark between two reels. So, but they'll mark the actual print with it it's a hot poker, but they call it a cigarette burn, and it's up in the upper left-hand corner, and they'll, right up here, and they'll burn it in. And then that tells you come up on the end of a reel and you need to load the next reel.
Were you laughing because of Fight Club, Alex?
A little bit, but also that it's the kind of thing that I grew up watching movies with those in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, even it's got to be a decade more since I've seen that in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
But I'm always kind of looking out for it when I see a movie in the theater. Even like I'm watching Across the Spider-Verse in the theater for the first time. Like, it's not going to have that in there, but I'm still like, where is it?
Yeah, well, all the theaters now, of course, are running digital projectors.
Exactly.
So there's no point, which makes total sense.
Yeah.
I mean, when you can bring the entire movie on one of these,
mm-hmm.
I mean, that's so much easier than dealing with an entire reel.
Yeah, we no longer have to have an orchestra sitting out in front of the screen to make music for our for our silent films.
Yeah.
So
so films and stuff, and Nova, Lauren, and I just watched Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
I want to see that. Troy played a little bit of it when we were over there one night, and I'm like, I really need to see this.
It wasn't what was on the schedule, so I stopped, but it was a lot of fun.
It is quite good.
I really want to see it.
I'm going to own it on Blu-ray because I heart Weird Al.
Well, yeah.
We got it from the library. So, no, it's so good. Very enjoyable. So, Lauren said she kind of wants to find somebody who's younger, who's like interested in seeing it and like watch it with them so they can like, did that happen that way?
I was curious enough. I went and read about it because I'm like, how much of this, if any of it, is even true?
Mm-hmm.
It's because it's kind of like, did they just decide I'm going to do something fun and just go with that? And that's kind of like where he went.
Yeah, I think that as far as things that are not actual documentaries go, probably the most true kind of Weird Al biopic thing is probably The Complete Al. And that is, if I remember it correctly, which I may not, it's been decades. It is fairly true to life, but exaggerated, where Weird the Al Yankovic story is not very true to life.
Yes, it is. It's absolutely. It's exactly what happened.
It's as much a biography of his life as Pick of Destiny is of Jack Black's life.
Yeah. So
Jack Black, though, you know, his mom was NASA.
So, yeah, I do think I did know that.
And she was part of the team that programmed the programs for the Apollo landings.
Cool.
Like, she was super smart. She may still be super smart. I don't know.
Jack Black got dropped on his head. The end.
If you go out there, you can find his first appearance was in an Atari commercial.
I remember. I've seen that.
And it's you look at him. Yep, that's Jack Black.
That's Jack Black. And but no, it's
Bob's like, I'd say it's a solid 30% true.
Mm-hmm. There are many people. There are many characters in the movie who have real names and are portraying those real people. I did love like when they did the whole like montage of like different cameos at the Dr. Demento's party. I'm like, that's Emo Phillips. So just like, right out the bed, I'm like, Dolly, motherfucker, that's Emo Phillips. And just look at the scroll. I'm like, yeah. The reason to watch the end credits for the movie is that Weird Al does an original song, and it's about the credits.
Nice. I want to see it so bad.
Here are tons of people you don't actually see in the movie, but we had to pay them anyway. These are all the songs that were in the movie,
including this one.
Yeah. No, it was enjoyable, and I think in the near future I'll have to show the kiddo UHF because I definitely have that on DVD.
Surprise.
Yep. And there's also little Easter eggs in there, like Cooney's Karate Studio and stuff I saw in there. So that was good. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, that was back when they started cranking out stuff like let's see. So you had UHF, and then there's Kentucky Fried Movie, and then there was not Plan 9 from Outer Space, but it was similar to that, but it wasn't.
I like Kentucky Fried Movie was before UHF. It was definitely kind of in the same genre, that kind of like multiple vignettes strung together.
Yeah, the goofiness.
Yeah.
Oops. Let's see, because UHF was 80s, wasn't it? Yeah. Kentucky Fried Movie was definitely before that, but it was Zucker Brothers, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of the one that it starts with Arsenio Hall in the bit. Amazon Woman from the Moon. That's what it was called.
Oh, I loved Amazon.
I was thinking, what about, wasn't there like Harlem Nights as well?
We'll get back to the 1953 classic Amazon Women on the Moon after this.
Mm-hmm.
I think was Harlem Nights a vignette piece though?
I thought, God, wasn't it? Well, was it Harlem Shuffle? Hollywood Shuffle?
Oh, Hollywood Shuffle. That's what it was.
Hollywood Shuffle. Okay, I got there.
Okay.
Sorry.
That was the one. Yeah, Harlem Nights was one plot. So
okay.
But yeah, Hollywood Shuffle, I believe, was the other one that was there. But definitely that same weird mixture of stuff, just like Weird Al.
Yeah. I think Hollywood Shuffle had like the two black film critics watching like the Dirty Harry parody. That was hilarious. But anyway, no, so good. So, yeah, no. So she liked it. We also did the prepper. We also watched like a bunch of Weird Al videos and some of the original songs and stuff. And yeah,
I remember when Fat first came out.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching it with my sister and my mom.
Your mom?
Yeah, I was thanks because Troy's not control. So yeah, thanks.
Of your mom.
Yeah. And I remember watching that and Mom going, "This isn't funny," and I didn't understand why she didn't think it was funny, because of course Mom was overweight at the time and she didn't find that entertaining at all. And I had no idea. I was a skinny 14-year-old.
Yeah, you're 14. You're a kid. You don't know.
And not only that, I was neurodivergent, which meant that I didn't read the room very well. You know, I wasn't good at reading the room. I was like, Mom, watch this cool thing. It's really fun. And she's like, this isn't funny at all. I was like, I don't know why she didn't think it was funny. Read the room, guy.
Yeah.
Now looking back on it, I'm like, ooh, ouch. Didn't think about that.
It's interesting how things don't age well. Out of the spur of the moment, figuring out to pick something to watch yesterday, I went and found Better Off Dead with John Cusack in it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Because in my memory, I remember thinking it was funny, but I'm like, it's also been 30-something years. So I told Tara, I was like, okay, we're gonna watch this. However, I want to say it might suck, and I'm just remembering it poorly, and it's and I'm sure it's going to be full of 80 tropes that are painful to watch, and it definitely had some of those in it. But it was interesting because it basically glosses over and makes fun of suicide. Because the character's girlfriend breaks up and he's trying to kill himself, but it's all done in a comical way. So like he's going to hang himself, and then he's like, well, that's not going to work, right? And then his mom opens the door and knocks him off the stairs, and he's struggling to not die. And I was like, yeah, there's a lot here that only worked at that time. But there's two things from it that I will always remember, and this is what kind of drew me back to it, was the newspaper kid going, I want my
$2.
That's right. And that probably
$2.
That was probably one of the biggest laughs that I got out of Tara, was when he's going through the park and the kid rose up, and then slowly all of the paper boys are filling the park in the background and that. And then there's one where he was going to jump off of a bridge, changes his mind, but his best friend knocks him off of it. Then he falls into a garbage truck, and the garbage truck's driving, and there's these two workers. And they look in there and see it going. And the one worker looks in there, and this line has stayed with me this entire time. It's a real shame when when folks be throwing away a perfectly good white boy.
Yep.
It's just his delivery of that line was just great.
Yeah.
And that's just random and weird. But yeah, films that don't age well.
Yeah, I mean, films that are very much I don't want to say like a time, like a capsule of their time, because some of those sometimes those hold, but like something that is usually you see it with, and it is often comedy, where it's like it is so you can't really watch it anytime than it was intended to be watched, like that initial audience. And like, because comedy often has to have some kind of transgression with it. So I haven't watched Better Off Dead in forever either, but I would think that like going into it with this is not how suicide actually is kind of mindset. It would still have some funny bits to it. But like a time capsule movie, like I think the Blues Brothers is a really great snapshot of like America at that time, and I still own a copy of it and love it. And like we showed it to Nova, I don't know, a year ago, 2, got dance numbers and cool music, and this is what's going on. And I was like, "Can we show you the Blues Brothers?" Right? I asked her this like a few days ago, and she goes, "Yeah." And she started like doing this thing. I'm like, "What are you doing? There's no fighting the Blues." Like, yes, the nun beats them up. I'm like, "You're right. The nun totally beats them up." Forgot about that. So, yeah, and of course, we watching Blues Brothers, we had to like talk about the Illinois Nazis. So I remember the first time I saw that movie, and I'm watching it, and like they're like, "What's going on?" Oh, the Illinois Socialist Party won their court case. Now they're demonstrating. Illinois Nazis? I hate Illinois Nazis. But like the part where they're talking and stuff, and I was watching it on VHS, got it from like the movie store, the rental store, and like when the guy is doing his speech and everything with his megaphone, my dad pauses the movie and goes, and we're like, who Nazis are, right? I'm like, yeah, and like we talk about it a little bit, and he goes, that part right there, what he said, the part that they said, just the Jew is using the black as muscle, against fine upstanding folks, like just like you. He goes, that's the part that gets people pissed off, like really pissed off and want to murder them. I'm like, cool, okay. It's like, no, we are not like you fascist pieces of shit. Eat shit and die. But yeah, so I talked to Nova about that a little bit, and yeah,
That brings me back to you had stepped away from the camera for a bit, but I was mentioning a show called Happy, because we were talking about losing your innocence and how in that show when kids there's a scene where some kids are losing their innocence because of what they're seeing on a videotape, and their imaginary friends just pop out of they blink out of existence because their childhood is now gone. But in that show, there's also a scene where season 2, a little bit of a spoiler thing here, they end up in an old folks home, and the guy is like the main character's slowly realizing this old folks home is a bunch of retired Nazis. This is where they're all hiding. And then when the fight scene breaks out and he's killing like 80-year-old people on that, he's like, this is so easy. Their bones are so brittle.
Nice.
And the sidekick character is like, this is horrible. He's like, they're Nazis.
Right.
But yeah, I can't turn down a good Nazi beating.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No. Here for it.
It makes me a bad person. Oh well. But
you know what? You're not as bad as
Nazis.
The Nazis.
That's right. Paramount Plus, by the way, guy. It was where I watched it. Better Off Dead.
Oh, okay.
So, thanks to you, I was able to watch that.
Thanks to me, you had to suffer.
Admit it on video in public.
Come get me, Paramount.
Then
bring it.
No, actually, I've got to admit the sharing thing helps a whole lot. Because it is getting to the point now where
it's pricey.
Yeah. I mean, I just did a breakdown of my bills today.
Yeah.
And the amount.
Yeah. I mean, they instill in us this desire to consume all the things and the FOMO that comes with it. And then they're surprised that people steal shit.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a fucking break.
Yeah. And it's a sucky thing. It's a sucky thing, but. And I wouldn't if it wasn't for the fact that it's
that you really want
edging towards $15 for each one of them.
Yeah,
if you want to watch the 6 shows you like, you have to have 6 different ones at $15 a pop.
Yeah, definitely none of the stuff that I'm skirting the law of are things that I need to live. So it is greed. It's not like I'm not stealing bread to feed my children.
Right.
So that's why I am not a lawful
Jean Valjean. That's why you're not Jean Valjean.
I'm not lawful good.
So I think I touched on this an episode or 2 ago with the Marvel Spider-Man game that I'm just the friendly neighborhood man slaughtering man, just knocking people off rooftops stuff. You know, I think they integrated the DLC because I'm like, this is going way farther than I thought, and this is kind of matching the description. They were saying like buy this DLC, but I have the Game of the Year edition or whatever, and I'm playing it. It's like now I'm getting missions where it's like knock 4 people off this rooftop to get bonus stuff, and I'm like, now you're telling me to be manslaughter, man.
No, there's piles of cardboard boxes down there. They're fine.
Oh, yeah.
So totally unrelated to anything that anybody listening to this or watching this will care about. So you said you're doing the Star Wars thing. Does that mean I'm not going to see you Friday?
No, it's Monday.
Oh, okay, good.
They moved it to Monday because it disrupted too much on Friday.
Yeah, gotcha. I like our Friday hangouts.
I like our Fridays too.
What time is it? Because Mondays usually have Geek
this. Yeah, I may not be here for this one next Monday.
Okay,
but it's getting to the point where I that's part of the problem that I'm kind of running into is I've got something on every day that I need to do something with, which is fine. It's just every so often I will have to drop out of something like this, and you guys will have to run the show without me.
Okay,
it gives us a chance to talk about you.
Yeah, exactly. How much you hate me. It's important.
Yeah.
I do that with my kids every time. I'm like, here, do this review of me while we grade your tests. And while we're doing that, you can say how much you hate me. And I like pick up my phone and I mime, this guy needs therapy. He really and all the kids start laughing. So I'm wondering how many times my boss has gotten this guy needs therapy. Make those comments. I've been trying to get them all to go, I love guys class. It's much better than cats. I'm going to see it again and again. So yeah, making a joke off of that.
What were you gonna say, Alex?
SNL thing. No, I was gonna say, yeah. So we're only in mid-January right now. But there was a story that B-Dan texted me, and it It just reminded me of our friend Mr. Porter, who passed away almost a year ago.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure that just put it into your brains a little bit, like it's coming up next month.
Hmm.
So
It
I guess
is.
in the last few minutes thinking about future topics.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
What
think
to
he
do
texted
for-
me that same story.
Yeah. But just trying to think.
Don't think I would have been as composed.
Where should we go for next week? Do we have any ideas or?
Well, the guy
Does the
just said he
audience want
won't.
anything?
Guy just said he won't be here.
Oh, okay. What do you want to do that we can talk about that when that isn't part of Guy's fandoms that he won't feel left out on?
Women.
I mean, you know,
I don't know. We could see if there's anybody who's been wanting to be a guest on here and have them come fill in.
Okay.
like Brent.
We had Brent on for 3D with Bob.
3D printing.
Yeah, we should talk about Star Trek.
We have we know nothing of this topic, so we will.
My favorite author wrote a couple episodes. They're really awesome.
Actually,
Back to you.
I like that one episode where they reverse the polarity.
Yep.
Right.
That one episode
to solve the problem.
or they ejected the warp core.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, since I did not start the show, I do believe that means when Guy leaves, I think it's just going to kick us out of here. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'll stick around and see. But if so, then so be it.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll figure it out. I don't know if there's any games we already both own that if we wanted to just do a playthrough or a snippet of a playthrough for our viewers. But yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay, cool. And then yeah, I did want to talk to you about some game stuff afterward. So if you get kicked
I
out,
thought
you want to meet me on the Discord.
Yeah, I'll jump over on the Discord if we get kicked out. Or we could just say let's go meet on Discord. Just be done with it.
Make it like
go do that.
All straightforward.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay.
Cool. I really appreciate you guys coming back and welcome back to town, Bob.
Yeah.
Good to have you back.
Super secret holiday thing up at the North Pole. I mean,
apparently brought back North Pole cold.
Boo, Bob, leave that. Don't check that.
Yep, that's about right.
Sounds like every show. I'm gonna sneeze. I'm muting.
Yep. Oh, that was actually kind of cool. He's like, hey. And then he's back.
Yep. That's how it works. That's why we're professionals.
We are so professional.
Mm-hmm.
We're so professional that our professionalism is professional.
All right. You have a great other show there.
Gone now, so that's all the time we have for today. I hate to say this. However, we will see you next week without me. Until then, I've been Guy.
I've been Troy.
And I've been Alex.
And this is Geek Tank.